Top of the hill.
Yeah, all right.
I think we just need to show the Green Gen we are not going to go away. You know, we are here. As long as farmers are willing to make their stand, then it's our duty to be here to support them.
You know, they're representing us all, and they're the tip of the sword at the moment, and I think we're all here to show our support for them. And you know, the people who can't be here, I've had dozens of messages of support this morning of people who can't get off work, and you know, so you know, I think the community are all behind them.
It's very important, I think, for them to know that they're not alone, and that we're behind them 100%.
Yeah, we have neighbours who have been taken to court by Butte, and yeah, it seems they are employing a very large legal team just to give the impression that whoever opposes them is going to have to pay their legal fees, and you know, they're just trying to frighten everyone.
It must be absolutely petrifying, because there's a complete lack of knowledge of the process and the thing and the calamity and what can happen, and imagination runs riot.
One of our neighbours is in there, and he's not dealing with it very well. He's been made mentally very unstable over it. They've worried him a lot about putting the costs onto him, which is just scaremongering. And pylons are not even going on his land. All it is a cable's going over a corner of a field that he owns.
It's an absolute nightmare, it is. It's taking all their brain, they've worked all their lives for something, and people are just ripping it off them at the end of the day.
Talking about that and how awful it must be if you're a law-abiding citizen and you get these letters saying you've got to go to court, it would make one feel really upset and ill, and I think very, very wrong, and it shouldn't be allowed.
It's a huge thing that these families are doing. Never been in this position before, and yet they've decided, look, you know, we have to do this, and that's why I think we all of us feel we had to be here to show our support. If it can give them a sense that they're not alone, they're not isolated.
It must be absolutely awful for them. I can't imagine, because they're the last people on earth who would ever find themselves appearing in the Magistrates Court if it wasn't for this. And I think we owe them a debt for actually standing firm and showing Green Gen that you can't just ride roughshod over people's land and people's feelings.
I can't imagine. I mean, I haven't been in front of a court in my life, and I'd be petrified if I was called or summoned to appear. And you know, all kinds of things go through your mind, your personal reputation, financial damage to you personally as well, and you know, what do other people think. So that's why we need to show this solidarity today, over 100 people here, so that the farmers don't feel they're fighting this battle on their own. You know, they're fighting on behalf of all of us. They're here representing the communities where we live.
Get an honest job. Get an honest job.
I think Green Gen from the start thought that they would just be able to walk onto people's lands and build their pylon line, and of course nothing could be further from the truth. I think they completely reckoned without communities who feel very strongly about this. And don't forget, Green Gen is going to make an enormous amount of money. All they're here for is profit.
It's just about the money. They just want to make a quick buck, move on, and then leave Wales with the mess.
It's so lucrative for them. It's, you know, they're getting mass subsidies to put these there. They're going to get mass profits this is one man's vanity project, and it's got to stop. There are ways and means of doing things. This is an important infrastructure project. It should be a nationalised project, not somebody's private little fund who will then cash in and sort of won't be seen for dust. And because the people of Wales have had an absolute bellyful of what's going on in Cardiff and Westminster, people's pockets have been mugged. We're asked to do a lot more for a lot less, and enough is enough.
So welcome to our fourth Pylon Podcast, which today is focusing on the events at the Llanelli Magistrates Court on Tuesday the 22nd of April. That was just last Tuesday. And first of all, I just want to say, it's very good footage that you've put together, which I think marvellously captures the atmosphere down at the court and the protest. That it was a very strong turnout. I think there were more people on this occasion than the previous occasion. Some people were saying over 100 people, and many people who couldn't make it on the day who had expressed their support. And I thought that what was different, we had some children there because it was still Easter holidays here in Wales. And so that was good to see as well. So it was a family occasion. But I felt there was a real edge to the atmosphere and a feeling of revulsion against Green Gen and the tactics that they are employing. And that was captured, and it came up on the footage, and that was captured when the lawyers arrived in their droves, and there was slow hand clap, and there were people calling out saying "shame on you." Yeah. I thought that was very powerful. And the other thing that came through from those interview clips that you did was that this is all about money, isn't it? This is profiteering at the expense of Welsh people and our Welsh culture. And I thought that came through strongly. And I think that message is beginning to gain traction, and people feeling really indignant that this is happening. And at the end of the day, where is the Welsh Senedd in this? Where is Welsh Labour in all of this? And what do they feel about it? Do they feel that is right? So anyway, it was a really passionate occasion.
Yes, absolutely. I think it just felt when the lawyers for Green Gen arrived, they were so different to us, as it were, the people who were there to support those farmers who were having to appear in court. And so many people said about, I didn't speak to any people who hadn't had that kind of horrible, cold feeling of, I'm really glad it's not me in there today. Right, so that day went through, it ended, and what actually was the outcome?
Okay, so the events in court, it was another of these David and Goliath moments when we've talked about the number of lawyers. There are even more lawyers for Green Gen on this occasion than the first time. I think there are 13 members in their team, and we had 2 members in our team. We had a KC and we had a lawyer as well. So the first thing that happened was there was a request for an adjournment, because Green Gen had submitted papers to our team on the Thursday before Easter, therefore giving no time for proper consideration of the defence, which was a typical but shocking tactic. So there was a request for an adjournment, and this was not granted. And the tactic that was used here was to tell the plaintiffs, the farmers who were being taken to court, to tell them that if they pursued this, they would automatically incur £30,000 in costs each, and that should the proceedings go on beyond the hearing on Tuesday, the costs would be even greater.
So for their £30,000, it would cost them £30,000 just to have their side of this kind of heard.
Exactly. So this was really an impossible position for them to be in, because they could not afford that sort of money. bankrupt them. And so they were, in my opinion, they were denied justice. I think everyone has the right in our legal system to have their case heard, and then for judgment to follow their case being heard. This was denied them because effectively they were told, look, if you want to have your case heard, it's going to cost you £30,000 each. Anyway, as a consequence of that, the advice that we gave, our legal team gave to the landowners was, look, you need to sign because you can't afford that sort of money. And you need to sign the licenses now. And that then took place in different rooms. And
And just to clarify for me, what is the license? What does that? What are they signing for?
So the license is a legal document which grants access to their land for surveying the land as part of the planning process for these pylons. And there are all sorts of clauses within that license. I can't go into that. I'm not going into that because I'm not qualified to. But I know that the license itself is a controversial document. But be that as it may, that's what they would do. Sign saying, basically, I'm giving you permission to come onto my land in order to conduct the surveys.
So, okay, what's your feeling about that day in court? What would you say is your sort of like assessment of the whole thing?
Yeah, no, sure. What is the outcome? So where are we now? The good news is that the landowners have incurred no costs because there has been no hearing, and therefore all the legal arguments which have been prepared have not been aired on our side. Our legal arguments have not been aired. So we can hold that back for any future occasion. So in the sense that we will live on to fight another day. There have been costs. It has to be said. So the landowners have been supported by the NFU, who have provided funds to help pay for the lawyers that have prepared the case to defend the plaintiffs, and also the Llanelli PSG Pylon Group and other groups too, where there are funds been available, have also financially supported those farms. So there have been costs, but they haven't been anything like as huge as might have been the case.
And that means, I suppose, that so that's 6 farmers who've had to say, yeah, okay, I'll sign. And there are many, many more that to come.
So there are, there are hundreds of farmers involved in both these lines, both the Tawi Usk line and the Tawi line. We don't know how many have already signed licenses, maybe 100 or so, I don't know. So the tactic now will be that Green Gen will need to, if there is still resistance and they can't get on land, they will need to reapply to the courts for warrants. No warrants have yet been issued, which is good news, because there has been no hearing, there has been no case. Landowners have signed the licenses without warrants having to be issued. So our recommendation to landowners is continue resisting. Continue fighting. And it's tough, this. It's really hard. I mean, these poor landowners have been in court. It came through in your interviews. It's not a pleasant thing at all. And I think they will have been suffering from mental anxiety on an extreme level. But we are urging them, fight on. We are behind you. We are supporting you. And the process that happened on Tuesday was a visceral sign of the support that exists for these landowners. We are right behind them, and they need to carry on resisting.
And one of the questions I asked in the video at the beginning was, why are Green Gen taking this approach to it? Why are they taking this kind of brutal approach to it? I know that many politicians have tried to sit down with them or asked them to sit down and talk this through to see if there's a kind of middle way, or there is a middle way, that's undergrounding the cables, but they seem to want to fight.
Yes. And that's the $1 million question. I think most people now see it as a profiteering exercise, and they are pursuing a campaign which maximizes their profits, and that they won't consider undergrounding, they won't consider cable plying because they want pylons, and because there is a value to them in those pylons. They can sell the pylon line off, maybe to National Grid, isn't it?
Okay, there's one thing that came up. Someone said to me on Tuesday, all this surveying that they're talking about, none of this is surveying that's about the potential to put the cables underground.
No, that's right. And it was quite interesting. The first judge, because there have been two, and the first judge, the English-speaking judge, he did question that. He said, "Oh, well, okay. Well, you want to survey for cables, for pylon cables. What about surveying for underground cables? What's happening about that?" But anyway, that hasn't. It didn't come to anything at all. But so no, you're right, and that this is the big push that we are campaigning for with the Welsh Government. Is if they are serious about looking at undergrounding as an alternative, then they need to require surveying of the land for an underground line.
Yeah, you would think to be able to say that all options are being looked at here, and to do that with a straight and honest face, that any work that's being done at this point should be with all of the options being looked at, and that it's obvious that that's not being done.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the plan going forward?
So the plan going forward is to continue to support the landowners, to continue resisting, and at the moment also to fundraise. So there is a fundraising imperative to support those landowners with their legal costs, and to build up a fighting fund. So those are the sort of things that we're really focusing on at the moment.
And the fundraising, what's the money mainly needed for?
Well, I think it's mainly needed for supporting the landowners and their court cases. But there is a bigger picture involved here. And so we will soon be approaching the planning stage. We think maybe Green Gen are hoping to submit for planning in around about October. Hopefully it might be a bit later than that, but and then we will need to look at challenging that planning process as well. So funds needed to support that. Funds needed to support the consultancy that we're using to verify the costings for undergrounding, which we've been working hard on. So there are various reasons for needing a fighting fund, but the immediate vital imperative is let us support those farmers who are bravely resisting.
Absolutely. It's a tricky one. A question I'd like to ask you is, what's the advice on how much a person should think of giving towards the fighting fund?
So it's a good question, Andy. I think landowners who have pylons coming onto their land are giving about £1,000 each as a minimum, and that money is coming in. And I think they feel that is a sensible reflection of the impact these pylons are going to have. I think it's also recognition that if we are to achieve the sort of funds that we need, I think a minimum of 100,000 we're looking for, and probably more than that, we need generous donations. Small amounts of money are not going to cut it. For those who have a pylon within vicinity of their property, we're advising between £300 and £500. So if, let's say, it's in the next field, or you can see it's nearby. And I think people perhaps should consider the impact that these pylons are going to have on the value of their properties. We already know there's a property blight in the valley. There's been research done, an article in the Daily Telegraph recently suggesting maybe up to £200,000 is being taken off the value of properties. Because
I've heard 30% of the value being lost, which makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you can afford it, please do give. Okay, how How do I give?
We are part of the Llanelli Pylon group, and so we would ask for money to be given direct into our bank account, and we'll put the details up on the podcast screen for you. So you're giving money to a cause, although you maybe donate it to a specific group bank account. That money will be available to fight the cause all the way up the valley, and also in the Tai V Taui cause as well.
How is the fundraising being done? It's obviously involved volunteers. It all involves volunteers. No one's being paid. Tell me about the fundraising.
So we have a fundraising committee, and that fundraising committee is meeting again actually this coming Tuesday. They need volunteers, so they need more people to help. So if anyone is available and feels motivated to support, then please do get in touch.
Well, Robert, I think we've said what we intended to say. Have you got anything to add?
Well, I just think, Andy, that this is a really critical time in the campaign. And if people are willing to help, encourage more and more support amongst communities, please can you share this podcast? Not that we want more publicity for ourselves, but we want the message to be shared out there so that more and more people understand what's going on, understand why it's so critical, and can get behind the cause. So I think that's how I'd like to finish. So if you can share it amongst your friends, amongst colleagues, then that would be really appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you.